Just think of it as the rough draft of the podcast world. This is the Newbie Writers Podcast with your hosts Damien Vogt and Catherine Bramkamp.
Hey, this is episode 147 of the Newbie Writers Podcast, and we're doing a roving reporter show today because our guest is out on the street corner at the moment. But that's all right. We'll see how we go. Hopefully we don't have a truck run him over. But we have... Now I'm going to try and pronounce this. I'm going to try and pronounce this without looking like an idiot. It's Tube 10 Comaford, is that right?
That's right.
Woohoo! Thanks, Catherine, for finding someone with the strangest name that we've ever had on this show.
Wait till you see Word of the Week.
Yeah, I'm not looking that far ahead.
Probably for the best.
I like a little bit of variety in my life. But Tube 10, okay, we're going to ask your name. How did that come about? Come on. What was wrong with your parents?
Well, it's interesting that you ask. It's usually the first thing that somebody asks when I meet them is where my name came from. I was a Buddhist monk in the Tibetan tradition about 20 years ago, and it was the name that was given to me when I was ordained. It's the Tibetan translation of the Sanskrit word dharma.
Yep.
And when I left the monastery, I kept the name.
Oh, well, there you go. So, are you allowed to say what your name was before?
I don't use that name.
Oh, well, there you go.
Aha!
Oh.
So that's the answer. So you went from Buddhist monk to social media mogul. Tell us about that's an interesting jump. Were there some stopping points along the way on that journey?
Well, hang on.
Sure.
It must be a thing like Buddhists are very calm, peaceful people, and now you've jumped into Twitter. You feeling
Which is not peaceful or calm.
No, it's the complete opposite.
Well, I don't know that it's a complete opposite. It's an opportunity to. It may be the opposite of a monastery, right? It's definitely not secluded, and there are a lot of people. Can be a lot of noise, but I find it to be interesting and engaging. I get bored very easily, and I like to have lots of stimulus. So it gives me an opportunity to keep 200 or 300 conversations going at the same time. And I love meeting new people. Enables me to do that, and it's a lot of fun. But I've been in and around technology. I've been interested in technology since I was a kid, and got into computers early. Went to Silicon Valley in my 20s and worked at a number of technology companies that you recognize the names of, and learned a lot. And along the way, I met a Tibetan Buddhist teacher, and a couple of years later, found myself taking monastic vows, and actually worked at America Online while I was a monk, and lived in a monastic community nearby, and went to India and used technology while I was there, and then came back to California and had a technology company, a network engineering firm, and did that while I was a monk. So there's really no prohibition for being in business or having a job or doing any of that while you have your while you're holding your monastic vows.
Oh, see, I have a different impression of that. It's probably thanks to Hollywood. Of if you go off to be a monk, you end up in a temple somewhere on the top of a mountain. And I don't know, I just had this image of like them getting an iPad and you going, "Yep, I'm back into tech. See ya."
Well, that's where I wanted to be, but where I ended up was back in Silicon Valley with a meditation center in San Jose, and basically helping tech people de-stress and meditate, manage their lives, and and then after I returned my monastic vows in 1999 and continued in technology. got onto LinkedIn and built a giant LinkedIn network. I was in the first 300,000 people on LinkedIn, and built a network. I have almost 30,000 connections on LinkedIn now. And
Wow.
7 years ago, the same person who introduced me to LinkedIn introduced me to Twitter. And in short order, Twitter had my full attention, and
Really?
I did the same thing on Twitter as I had done on LinkedIn, which was build a giant network. And people were noticing, so after 3-4 months, I had 5,000 followers and then 10,000 followers, and it just kept snowballing. And people were asking me, how are you doing that? And I described to them my process, and they, their eyes crossed, and I could tell I'd caused some brain damage, and they just couldn't imagine doing all of that for themselves. And so they asked me if I could do it for them. And so that's how I got into social media management, was just by having people that I met on Twitter acknowledge a skill that I had developed, and they asked me to help them with managing Twitter for them.
Well,
And it grew from there. So that was 7 years ago.
How can you help someone like Catherine, who has no idea about Twitter?
I think Catherine's beyond hope, but
really?
somebody.
Yeah, I think so too.
We met on Twitter, so I did something right.
Well,
Yes, you did.
are you
Yes,
following
you did.
her back, Tube 10?
Yes.
Really? You've
Yeah.
got 4 followers,
Yeah,
Catherine. Fantastic.
I know. I'm very excited. I want to try to break the 100 mark.
Jeez,
So absolutely. And in fact, the people who reached out to me first were authors, and we have had a lot of author clients, and we continue to have a lot of author clients. I think one reason that authors do very well on Twitter is because they like to write, and they're good at writing, and they're good at communicating through writing. So, they don't have to speak to somebody in person. They can be behind their computer, and they can engage with people through writing. So they like to do that. And if they write well and they engage well, then they'll gain a following. And we at the beginning we're working specifically with nonfiction authors, and about 3 years ago, a publisher from New York came to us and said, "Hey, we've got some romance authors. Can you help us bring some attention to them?" And we started working with romance authors. And one of our most successful clients, who recently just passed 100,000 followers, is Bella Andre, and she's a top Amazon romance author. And she's on top because she engages. She does her own Twitter. She manages her own communication. But we bring her new eyeballs. We get her exposure, and that's our primary business: is bringing exposure to our client's Twitter page. And then if the clients are engaging and updating with regular, useful, relevant information, then then they get followers. People follow back.
Well, how do you tailor the tweets to be effective? Because I see a lot of the authors that I follow, they just post up either a snippet, like one sentence or a few words from their book. It makes absolutely no sense. And then there's Amazon.to or Amazon link to their book. 99 cents. Like, yep, whatever. Who cares? Move on.
Sure.
How do you make that effective? How do you make it jump out? I mean, I try and engage with people in a negative way by just criticizing them, and that seems to work. But,
so far, it's working out, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, how do you go about doing it?
Sure. So the key is never promote yourself, which is counterintuitive.
Yes.
So you never want to give them a link to buy your book, ever, ever, ever. You want them
Really?
to go to that, ever. In the update, you want to have that be where they go to either directly from your Twitter profile, so the link that your profile is connected to, or you have that be to your website, where you have a list of links that go to Barnes and Noble and Amazon and wherever else.
I don't know what that was. That just flew past. A low-flying plane with 2 screaming children in it.
So don't link to your book directly, but do a post, a Twitter post, and link to the website instead. That is a better strategy.
Well, I would say to have the website include the link to your or have your Twitter profile include a link to your site where you have a list of links to all the different properties on which people can buy your book. And that way they get some context. They get to read more about you. They can click the About Me page. They get some more context. Because the challenge is people. An analogy that I use may be inappropriate, but an analogy that I use is like when if somebody's going to to a bar, to a nightclub, do they propose marriage at the nightclub, or do they say let's meet tomorrow for lunch, or let's dance? It's not, hey, will you marry me? And that really is what when you're saying buy my book, buy my book, buy my book, that's commerce, right? So there's some kind of commercial transaction that's happening, and I don't even know this person. I haven't read the book. I haven't heard about them. I have no context for that request. And so asking that of somebody who you haven't met yet is just a little weird. But if you talk about, if you demonstrate your expertise, especially in the area of, if it's a nonfiction book, you just demonstrate your expertise in that area, and you talk about all the things that pertain to that area of expertise, so that people know you know what you're talking about, and they know that you're a human as well.
I'm just trying to think about the ratio of that actually working, of walking up to someone and saying, hey,
saying, so you want to marry me?
I like children and I have a stable job. Will you marry me? And let's see what the percentage of people go, yeah, sure.
I think it's a numbers game at that point. That's a sales technique. I mean, my husband knew a guy in college who would actually, that's what he did. He would go to a party and just walk up to girls and say, hey, I'm Bob, you want to sleep with me? Hey, I'm Bob, you want to sleep with me?
Oh.
And I just said, does that work? And he said 9 times out of 10, no, but all he needed was one hit and he was gold.
Oh man, they got tablets for that. You can just put it in the drink, saves the talking. Yeah. It's wrong. Don't ever do that. Jesus. So, but then
I think it's a valid analogy, though, and the authors that do very well, I encourage your listeners to go to look at what Bella Andre does, BellaAndre, and she's a romance author, so that's what she talks about, but she's just very engaging, and she's very immediate, and she's very real and personable. And that's not for everybody, but that seems to work very well for her.
Well, that's the question I was going to ask, because a lot of authors tend to just sit at home and live in their own head. What are they going to sort of just start spewing out there, going, oh, I put too many spoonfuls of sugar in my coffee this morning?
Well, and those authors are also our clients, and what we tend to do is develop a series of updates that will cycle through. So we do quotes from their books and post those one per day. I think it's important to post at least once per day.
Yep.
And then intersperse that with engagement, retweets, replies, and such. And but if you've got something going up once a day, and if it doesn't look too mechanical, then you're okay. So we put together a cycle of 120 or so updates, and those go once per day, and we just cycle through them. So that goes around 3 times a year. Nobody's going to notice that you're recycling them, and then see who engages and reach out to people who are bloggers in your space, and then reach out to them and engage them. So that's what we do on behalf of our authors. Is we if we're managing their updates for them and their engagement, then we locate people on Twitter who are in that particular field and engage with them as if we were the author, right? So we always do that on their behalf. So it's not we don't say, hey, I'm Tupton and I'm working for Bob,
Yeah.
and here's what he would say. Nobody knows that our clients are getting assistance, basically.
Huh.
And they just look
Right.
awesome.
Well,
Right. So you post in their name. What is the now we've had Frances Caballo on, who does Twitter for authors. Let me give you, that's the name of her book. I'll give her a shout out.
Yeah.
And she suggests that we should, as authors, that we should post on Twitter like 8 to 10 times a day. What do you think of that kind of number per day?
It depends on what you're putting up.
Okay.
So what on earth could you possibly be putting up that often? Well,
Buy my book.
Right, and that's basically what they end up doing. We've had clients for whom we posted that often, and what we do, those are usually nonfiction and books, and what we do is we find related content. There's one book that we did work on. It's a Disney book called Go Green, and you can look at the work that we did on Go Green book. And we would post 5 times a day, but we would find things about ecology, find things about anything around ecology or animals or green, anything in that space that looked engaging and interesting to people. And what you want to do is you want to post that on Facebook. That's what we did, post it on Facebook, and then also post on Twitter, because Twitter is it's useful, but it's not very visually engaging. And for this particular client, we had lots and lots of photographs to put up, but it was a really good project. We worked for them for 6 months and got them a lot of really good followers in that particular space. But there is content out there that is related to your field. If you're a nonfiction author, it might be a little more challenging to find content out there in different fiction genres, but it's probably possible. If you've got a historical fiction author, we've had a client that did a lot of things around Galveston Island. That was her setting for all of her books, and so we found content that was about Galveston and Texas and beach communities, that kind of thing. So you could be be creative about it, but I don't think that there's a need to post quite that often.
Okay.
Well, with the 120 quotes that you sort of cycle through, how do you choose them? I mean, if you've got an author that says, and you say to them, we need content, just send us some ideas or send us some quotes you might like. I mean, I see it all the time where they'll just pick something from their book, but it makes no sense. So it's just like,
so we go
Bill
through and we cite the page number. So basically what we do is I read the book, and I find sentences that are 140 characters or fewer, and hopefully closer to 100, but that have some punch that help tell the story a little bit, and we put the page number. So here's a quote, and here's the page number, and here's a quote, and here's the page number. So you could actually scroll back and read those 120, and you'll get a really good idea about what the book's about. And just doing a quote out of context, I don't think makes very much sense. But doing it like that, I think it works. Now you want to have engagement and retweets, replies in between, so that it looks like you're live and you're not on a machine. Right? It just some authors do that well and others do it better.
So
it's you can tell the authors that are on autopilot.
Well, yes, most of the ones that I seem to follow. But if you, I reckon my first one, I'd like to just have the end, and then page 20, page 200, page 400. That's what I would do. Start back.
Is that your quote?
Yeah, that'd be my quote for
Don't
today.
worry, it ends.
Yeah, the end.
The end. When you talk about engagement, do you have now? Obviously, you're a company, and so you guys have all sorts of materials and programs to use. But do you have anything to suggest for an independent author who can help manage their Twitter, their Facebook, Instagram, whatever they're using? Now, I use Social Oomph, and that's worked out really well for me. Do you have any other suggestions?
We use Hootsuite for posting to Twitter. We post directly to Facebook. We haven't found a tool that reliably posts to Facebook pages.
Mm-hmm.
So we just post directly. We schedule ahead of time. So we schedule out the day's updates in the morning directly on Facebook. But for Twitter, we use Hootsuite to schedule. I think you can do 100 updates at a time. Basically, I just create a database. So you do an Excel spreadsheet and have it formatted correctly, and then upload it to Hootsuite, and then you're set for a third of a year.
Yeah. Okay. I have found that I like Hootsuite a lot, but what I found is it's trying to create the spreadsheet that will accept the CVS codes for Hootsuite. I might as well just enter it in the Hootsuite directly and use their professional program and just go from there. It's really? Because this doesn't seem easier.
It's tough. Yeah, it's a very specific format.
Yeah, and if you're an author and you're a creative, managing it in the way that Hootsuite, because it's a computer program, needs you to manage it, may be very counterintuitive. So what I found was I just put everything out on a spreadsheet so I know what I'm doing, and then I just manually load it up, and it comes to about the same kind of time.
I would agree with you.
Just so people don't get too, because you look at that and they say, well, here you can save time, and you click that little button that says save time, and it does not save time, so it's okay. I just want people to know that.
Do it by hand.
Okay. Yeah, definitely okay to do it by hand, because then you sort of can be a little creative and say, I think I'll just time this at 5:45 because that's when everybody apparently is going to look at my tweet, and then you go from there.
Just tweet while driving.
Yeah, don't tweet while driving.
Why not? Nothing wrong with that. Now.
So, yes, now.
Sorry. I was looking at my Twitter feed to see if I could find any... for some reason, on my phone, when I open Twitter, the camera opens. So that's a bit disturbing.
So you see a picture of yourself? Is it on? It's a selfie?
Yeah. But all I'm seeing on mine are people that put quotes, and then at the bottom it says, buy now at blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
So I just ignore it now. I rarely look. That's why I got distracted. Oh, there's one from Catherine. Let's see.
Oh, yay.
Death revokes the offer. Babe views dead body in the kitchen. And then you've got a link to your book.
I do have a link. I am guilty.
Naughty, naughty, naughty.
I know. I'm going to have to change that up.
But this
and that being said, so if you really, really, really would like to let people know about what you have available and you want to give them a link, I would say no more than 5% of your updates should have that.
Right, and that's pretty much where I am now.
Real soft,
is that I have a few...
Very soft offer.
Well, one person that I think does it really well is Tim Grayton. I think it's how you pronounce his last name, or Grayton. Every time he's got a short story out, he posts the cover as his avatar. And that's pretty much it. And he's got links to his blog and, links in his profile. And that's how I ended up picking up a couple of his books. I thought, that's an interesting cover. But on the whole, he just, sends out tweets, just chat to him. It's a clever way of doing it. So his profile picture tends to change every couple of weeks, or once a month when a new book's out. And that's enough for me to notice a change, because it's just noise on my stream, and you get used to the same profile pictures all the time. So yeah, that's a good way of doing it. He's got a picture of a cat at the moment. That's a bit stereotypical though. Tim, change that.
So what do you think? What do you think of switching out pictures or switching out images on the internet? Should we change it up for interest, like what Damien was responding to, or should we stay true to a brand and stay consistent?
It's whatever. I would do A/B testing.
Okay.
So change and see what happens. If you get a reaction, if you get an increase in engagement or people noticing, or people complaining. I know that I see people who are in my industry tend to change their Facebook profile picture about every week.
Wow.
And it's a way to and it's a way to stay in people's stream.
Uh-huh.
But I find it annoying, but I might be the only one. But as far as changing your Twitter profile image, and I like the idea of having the covers. That's a good idea. I tend to think that people want to engage with people more, and they might not follow back. They might not follow a cover back, but they would they would follow a face back. And we've found that it's a really big challenge for us to attract new followers to a brand that doesn't have people on the background or on the header. So somehow it's right. So there really needs to be a face, a welcoming, smiling, happy person on somewhere, so that people can relate. Because I don't want to relate to a brand. I want to relate to a person. And we have a much better luck with people who have their own photos, and you could change them up if you want to get people to notice. But just in general, people get much better results if they've got at attracting new people if they've got their face on it.
You lost me at the smiling, happy face thing. That's why I have a pen as my avatar.
I was going to say, Damien has no photos on anything. You must be an outlier.
Yeah, because I take photos poorly. I am not a photogenic person. It really sucks. I don't know.
Well, you could take a photograph of your forehead or something like that, and do one of those close-up selfies that people do, where you just see a corner of your eye and your forehead.
Yeah, and then I'm going to end up on BuzzFeed.
There you go.
Look at this idiot.
It could be worse. You could be my son and end up looking like Harry Potter.
Yeah, but
I was going to say 15 examples of what not to do with your Twitter profile, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's right.
One of them would be don't put your genitals on there
and then
either.
You could tweet them individually. It's all good.
No. But hey, look.
So I agree with you on that people follow people, and I have a client right now who is very popular. In fact, she writes for Bella. Bella has a whole she's got a whole romance series that Sharon contributes to, so I think it's interesting that it's all linked up. And Sharon's fans, Sharon Hamilton, who writes Seal romances, the Seal Brotherhood romances, I gave her a shout out, and she is a person, and she relates to her fans as a person, and it's clearly about her and her books, of course, but it's about connecting with her. And my husband works for a large company, but his Facebook and their Twitter feeds is all about the people, and that's what people want to engage with. So I've seen a lot of strong examples about that, about it's your personality.
Have we lost him? Oh, he's still there.
I'm here.
Might have lost. Oh, there you are. But the other thing that I do tell my clients is that if you set up all of your social media as your name, then you don't have to manage a whole bunch of different books or a whole bunch of different genres. You can just be a writer and okay, I've written a mystery series. Guess what? Now I've got a science fiction series, and because they're still following the person, the author, then you don't have to do any extra work or try to reinvent another persona instead of just being a person.
That's a very important distinction, Catherine. Thank you. If we've had authors who want to set up Facebook pages and Twitter profiles for a book or for a series, and I have not ever seen one of those be terribly successful, because people really want to be engaged with the author. And building an author platform allows the author to build an audience that stays with them forever. So when they have their next book or the next book and their next book, they're launching into that larger audience every time rather than having to start from scratch. It makes a huge difference.
So they didn't have to. So, like, an author wouldn't necessarily have to create a separate page for each of his or her books. They could just say, "Here's the author," and maybe have groups instead, because that's easier to manage.
Well, they would have their author Facebook page, and if they'd like to have I would say just build it as an author Facebook page, or build it as your author Twitter page. There's not much of a difference between a group and a page as far as experience goes, except you can engage a lot better with other members. So members can engage each other in a group, whereas they really can't do that on a page. And if you have really awesome fans on Facebook, or another reason why you'd want to engage them more closely, I think a group is very useful. But that I would not use a group instead of a page. If I were going to do a group, I would also do a page.
Okay.
All right. Well, there you go.
Okay, cool.
Just trying to think. I personally don't like Twitter. Do you do other sort of platforms as well? Like, I'm big on the Google Plus at the moment.
We every once in a while we have a client that asks for Google Plus or LinkedIn, or we're getting more requests for Instagram, and we can support our clients on all of those platforms. But it's not. We have found that while it depends on. It depends on what kind of books they're writing. So if it's a business book or a sales book or marketing book, that kind of thing, it would actually be better to focus more energy on LinkedIn, and have a Twitter page and have a Facebook page, but put more effort into LinkedIn. For fiction authors, it may be useful to have a LinkedIn page just so there's one more place for people to find you, but I wouldn't put too much energy there, unless you're a photographer and you're doing a photography book. I don't know that Instagram would be terribly useful for an author. There's a lot of different ways to slice it, but just as far as the most effective platform that I've seen for authors to connect with their readers is Twitter, and second would be Facebook, and both of them are really good for advertising. So we're building advertising campaigns for our clients where we can find readers of particular types of books, different genres, different nonfiction topics, and reach those people either on Twitter or Facebook through paid advertising. And people don't click on the sidebar ads anymore. I don't know if you've noticed, but the sidebar ads on Facebook are on their way out, and people are much more creating specialized custom posts for that show up in the stream. So it shows up like a promoted post.
Yeah.
And those we can get down to 4 or 5 cents per engagement, which is really great. But only if you're I would say probably only if you're self-published or independently published. If you're only earning 25 to 50 cents a book, that's probably not going to work. But right. But if you're self-published, I heard Bella Andre speak a couple of years ago about how she does her audiobooks, and that's actually where she makes most of her money is on the audiobooks.
Really?
And she'll have professional actors come in and do the whole audiobook, and she's it's amazing. Her operation's amazing. If any of your listeners can emulate just a little bit of what Bella's doing, they will be very successful.
See, my brother-in-law said to me, he goes, Damien, you really need to be on Facebook so you can keep up with the family and what they're doing. Firstly, whatever. Secondly, I said my response to him was, I will join Facebook the day that all the ads disappear and all the incessant games go away. So
please just ignore the games.
No.
I get those. I have those blocked. I don't even see them.
No, I jump onto Google and it's just posts. I know that some people post like links and ads and stuff to their own thing, but there's no tailored ads that pop up on the side, and there's certainly no one saying, hey, will you come and purchase a cookie from my medieval cafe because I need to buy a chicken from the farm that I also have next door. So yeah, can't stand Facebook. It drives me up the wall.
Well, and that's the real difference. So Facebook, this is the way I look at Facebook, is that Facebook is an advertising platform on which people with personal profiles inform advertisers what they'd like to see by their behavior. And so Facebook is providing a valuable service to people using personal profiles in return for their acceptance of the fact that they're going to see advertising. And that's the trade. And I use Facebook for friends and family, and to some extent now I've started allowing my business connections to friend me on Facebook, although that's relatively recent. It's just an incredibly powerful advertising tool. So even if the author, there's the thing, is the author does not need to be posting their personal stuff on Facebook to connect with their readers. So their personal profile could be completely locked down with no name on it, nobody can find them, that's fine. Or if it's just really private with family, that's fine. They don't need to put their personal stuff out there. Their Facebook page is where people are going to be interacting with them, just like their Twitter profile or their Google Plus profile. It's a public forum, and that's where people are going to be engaging them. And if they see Facebook page as where they're doing the work, then they don't need to be terribly personal. They need to be human, but they don't need to talk about their dog or their trip to Hawaii or whatever it is.
All right. Well, Catherine, is there anything else you want to add or ask when it comes to social media? Have you learned enough?
Well, I've learned enough to tweet out good information to newbie writers. So hashtag newbie writers is what I'm growing for our newbie writers. And I think part of, if you want to be, an author, or you're, connected like my husband is, my husband is a COO of a manufacturing company, and he has a great Facebook page, and he has many followers, more than me. And he does, because his distributors and some of his customers want to connect with the company on a personal basis, and he knows that. So when we travel, he posts about things that we travel. He'll take pictures of the products. Here we are with our think tank bags. That kind of thing. And that's his whole Facebook persona. So if he connects with somebody from high school, it's all on the same page. And so I guess the thing is to remember that everything that you do out on the internet is public. And if you're going to be mean, nasty, exclusive, do a direct email to that person. Don't post it on Facebook. Just know that it's a more public forum.
Well, see, he could do funky things. Like when you guys go away, and you go to Russia and there's lots of statues, he could put one of the bags that they manufacture on the statue and take a photo.
Yes, he could. He could, but he does not have that kind of imagination. But I will suggest that I don't think there'll be any statues. I guess there are. We're going to be in Cologne next week, so maybe I can get them to put bags on statues, but we would not be the only people doing that. It's a large conference.
Yeah, I know, but it's just, there's a little bit of product placement for you, and you could get quite creative with it. There's a guy that I follow on Google Plus. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he's got a little Captain America figurine, and he posts up once a day or once a week Captain America in certain situations. So if he goes out to like a cafe, he'll get a little kid's coffee and put Captain America sitting leaning up against it, going, having coffee with Captain.
That's marvelous. How creative.
He works for some sort of media company. I think that's a cool idea. You should do that with the think tank bags. You should put them,
Yeah.
go to McDonald's and say, oh, we're at McDonald's in Germany or wherever, Russia.
Right.
And, yeah, look, Ronald McDonald bought one of our bags. And just put it...
Well, they do run Facebook contests, and they get wonderful, wonderful photographs from the photographers who use the bags, and they give them incentives. So they've pushed it out, and they have their own people doing that kind of thing. They have their own customers doing that.
Oh, have fun.
But that would be good for an author too. So take your book out with you everywhere you go, prop it up someplace, and say, "Here I am, and here's the statue with the book. Here's the pigeon with the book. Here's the book in the cathedral," and you could create a very interesting kind of conversation by walking your book or walking something that represents the book, and you can put it out there. It'll give you something to do, and people will only think you're just a tiny bit weird when you're doing it out in public.
Yeah, I'd be doing weird things as well. Like, if the cat was sitting on the couch and just sleeping, I'd put the book in front of him and go, look, It even sent the cat to sleep.
I was about to send you one of my books. I just changed my mind.
Oh, no, I'd do it tomorrow. Anyway, all right. Tube 10, where can we find you out there on the internet? Being called a pro.
Well, at on my
on a moped.
on a motorcycle, apparently.
Yeah.
On Twitter, it's THUBTEN. Looks like Thubten. Or on my agency's website, which is wepostmedia.com.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody can also reach me at tube10@wepostmedia.com.
Oh, there you go.
Very cool.
Thank you for being on. We've got some things that we need to sort of move on to when it comes to segments. Feel free to stick around for them, though, if you're not tired of standing on a street corner with a phone.
I appreciate that very much.
That's right.
Thank you for coming on and talking with us about this.
And my distinct pleasure. I look forward to speaking to both of you again in the future.
Yeah, no,
Great,
cool.
Thank you.
All right, now, prompt. Should we do a prompt? Catherine, I can't even pronounce this word that's in there.
I know, isn't it great? I'll give it a try. Okay. So this is from a book that I'm just having such a good time with. German Words for the Human Condition by Ben Schott, and it is German words that express something that we cannot or haven't found a word for in English, and this is called Frohsinnfascism. And it means the god-awful mediocrity of organized fun.
Yeah, that'd be German.
Yeah, so the breakdown of the word is cheerfulness, fascism.
Yeah.
So the prompt is, what organized fun have you suffered through this summer? Write about organized fun, and then write about what disorganized fun looks like.
Okay. Well, organized fun. That'll be tomorrow, probably.
What are you doing tomorrow that's organized?
It's Father's Day tomorrow. And
oh, happy Father's Day.
I
like that.
So, spending with the in-laws, and they've got a barbecue organised. Now, for the past 2 or 3 years, I've been the one that cooks them. And so, I see this invite come up going, we've got a barbecue at, your father-in-law's place. And my response was, and who's cooking that? And they, well, you. Like, oh, fantastic. So my Father's Day is going to be spent cooking. Brilliant.
Right.
So, yeah, organised.
My husband suffers from that problem as well.
So we'll be doing that. Disorganised fun. I don't have disorganised fun. It's just...
You don't have disorganised fun?
No. I need to plan these things.
I have disorganised fun all the time.
Yeah. Would you say, well, this is organised fun? Is it not?
The podcast is definitely organised fun, but then within it, we managed to scramble around with some disorganization.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's right. I love doing that. It just pisses the
It's like a sonnet. You have the whole framework, but within the framework, you get to do what you please.
Yes. Well, there you go. See if you can disorganise your fun. Anyway.
Give it a try and let us know.
Yes. Hey, let's do a tortured sentence.
Okay.
Next time, don't put the wrong emphasis on the right syllable. Jet sentences. All right. I've got another one as well.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I was sent a couple throughout the week, but I found one. I was sent one via spam that just trumps the lot of them. So to those that sent them in, I'll put them into the pool and we'll use them when we're desperate. But yours first. What's the deal with this one?
This is another class one, and they're trying to talk about. I'm not even sure what this person is trying to talk about. So here's the sentence, and this is why you have to reread your sentences and maybe put in some punctuation just for fun. In this article, she discounts Professor Broca's findings because his best findings came from the findings from an autopsy that was performed.
On what?
Essentially from brains. So it's about, the article is called Women's Brains, and it was about a 19th century doctor who decided that since women had smaller heads, they correspondingly had smaller brains, which meant they were correspondingly less intellectual than men.
Wow.
I know.
Publish that today and see how long that lasts.
Exactly. Well, and that's the point, is what was considered complete science was simply bias, and we have since debunked that, obviously. And so my point in the class is, then what do we believe wholeheartedly right now that is, quote, scientifically proven that in another 50 years will be completely disproved?
Well, I just think it's funny, though, that if you looked at that sentence, and my response would be, if you've repeated a word more than once in that sentence, probably shouldn't be in there.
Yeah.
Findings, his best findings, came from the findings. Tell me, what did he find? Anyway.
Yeah, and you have to be careful of that. I just went through, I just got my edits back for Future Girls, so I'm actually getting attention paid by my publisher, and got the edits, which were not as painful as I thought, which is good news. But that's what the editor was really helpful in, because she would write a little note saying, you just use this word, you need to use a different word. So absolutely.
So I'm always conscious of that. I'll read back what I've written and go, I've used that word twice, or I've used it 3 times, and then, but it's good enough to jump out at you that I go to then the thesaurus, Google, and just type in that word and see what else comes up.
So that's what I do too. Yeah, if I just look at that and say, wow, that happened again, there must be another word. We have such a robust language, it shouldn't be too hard. Yeah, I could find a German word for it and really throw off my editors.
Yeah, but you've got to be, I try and sort of keep in mind, though, there are some words that I would sort of never use. So you don't want to have a simple word that you've used 3 times and then all of a sudden in the middle throw in this long wanker word. People would know, well, you just changed a word. So I think...
True, and you want to stay true to your voice, and you don't want something to stick out. Absolutely. But it's kind of fun if I noticed that in a paper, if a student has used, very, simple language and then, suddenly throws out this long polysyllabic word, I think it's just entertaining. It's like, whoa, you looked something up. That's great.
Yeah. Well.
Do you know what it means?
No, but it was on Google.
No.
It was on a sidebar ad while I was farming in my cafe. The internet spam nowadays is becoming a lot more personal. I don't know if you found that. Actually, speaking of which, I seem to be getting a phone call once a day from Boulder, Colorado. I just ignore it now, but I don't know why.
You can also block it. I've gotten some weird calls from the East Coast, and I just start, if I can, I block them.
It's a bit dumb. I mean, it's costing them a lot of money to call a mobile phone in Australia. But
I know, it serves them right, doesn't it?
Oh, that's right. And I just let it go to message bank, so it does cost them money. But
yes.
Yeah, I just see it come up with +1 and then all these numbers, and I'm like, right, that's, and then it says Boulder underneath. Cool. Someone needs to get a better job. Anyway, a lot of spam often comes from, I don't know, you end up on a list somewhere, or it's just a cold canvas thing. I can wholeheartedly say I have never ever talked or typed about this stuff or looked it up or anything on the internet, so I don't know where this came from. But I got an email that went straight into spam, but it was enough to pop up on my screen first. I went, ooh, I'm going to use that.
Good.
The title of the spam email was, "Do You Poop?" And I thought,
Nice. You
yes.
get good spam. That's amazing.
I do. And then it says, and so I didn't open it, but you know how you get the little preview bit before it cuts the rest off?
Yeah.
It says, please excuse the somewhat personal nature of this email, but the information we are about to share below is extremely important for both you and your digestive health. You may not think you're constipated, but in reality, it is very likely that you are. Now,
Wow.
Now, I felt like responding back, going, well, after reading this email, I am well clear because you've just given me the shits.
Oh, well, that would be an interesting response, and then you could find out if anybody was really paying attention.
Yeah, but then I'd probably end up on some other email list.
Yes. Some email short list, you might want to be careful.
So, yes, there you go. Do you poop? Yes, I do. Thank you very much for asking. Now, the word of the week, I've just had a quick look at it, and it actually, it seemed to ring a very faint bell. So I Googled it, and we came up. So we did this word.
Oh, we did. Oh, my bad.
It's okay, you're forgiven. On episode 14.
Oh, Lord. That was a while ago.
Yes. December 31st, 2011. So
Whoa.
I don't think anyone is really going to go, you've used that word before. It was long enough ago that we can reuse it. So the word is boondoggle, which I love. It's such a stupid word. This word refers to unnecessary activity or wasteful expenditure. Like this show. It is...
It's the Boondoggle Show.
It is an Americanism apparently coined around 1930 by R.H. Link, an American scoutmaster, referring to simple tasks the scouts were taught.
Or whose scouts didn't get it. Maybe he's saying it was. I have a vision of all these early scouts not being able to put up their tents in the rain, and it was a whole boondoggle.
Yes, or just being told to be quiet when the scoutmaster touched them inappropriately.
Oh, you're bad.
I am. We're going through that whole inquiries thing at the moment. Okay, we got a question from Courtney Killian earlier today, actually, and she said, can you ask Catherine, let's read it out on the show. I went, yeah, sure. So she said she recently put up a poem on Goodreads. Now, someone a few years younger than me said that there was too much repetition in it and I should just take it out. The repetition reinforces the meaning of the poem, so my question is it okay to feel just a little bit ticked when someone younger tries to give criticism to me when they don't seem to get the meaning? Has anyone else ever felt this way?
Oh, I think everybody feels that way. It doesn't matter. I don't think it's the age so much as experience. And I do think you have a point where you need to look at or evaluate where criticism is coming from. And you want to look at where the background, what is the background of the person who is giving you the criticism. So on that level, yes, you have a right to be ticked if somebody is just popping off. Now, on the other side, if that person is your reader and the reader who's just coming cold into your poem or into your work, and they don't get it, that actually is pretty good feedback, and maybe you want to look and say, okay, if a reader isn't getting what I'm trying to convey, then maybe I need to make some adjustments.
Yeah, but some poetry is repetitious.
Oh yeah, and that's the point. There's a lot of Chinese poems, Japanese poems that's the point, and the structure of the poem is to do that repeating lines. I don't have a lot of patience with them personally, so they're not high on my list of poems I enjoy, because I just like you to get to the point and then I'm good to go.
Yeah, I mean, I've written one that's got a repeating line at the end of each stanza, but yeah, I think you got to do it tactfully. I don't think you can just throw it in there.
Strategically. And yeah, you need to be strategic and give. Lots of people don't know how to give good feedback, and that's probably the other thing that Courtney's come across, is that the feedback can be very rough. And like I said, this is the editor that I have here with Eternal Press has been awesome and knew how to give feedback. And I've had editors that just savaged my work, and I stopped listening. And if you're trying to be constructive and help somebody, you want to make sure that you don't insult them right off the bat, because they'll stop listening to you.
You know, I was on some poetry website posting things up, and people could, leave reviews and that sort of thing. I try not to leave reviews on a poem if it's written properly. Then at the end of the day, it's just that person, they put their feeling into it, and so be it. You can't really criticize it, in my personal opinion. But if someone's got like spelling errors in there, or something doesn't make sense, or it's clear they've cut and pasted a little bit and it just kills the flow, I'll put those sorts of reviews up and say, hey, it might pay to read this out loud, walk around with it, or it might pay to check out the spelling in this because I struggled with it a little bit. But that's
better. That's just fine. That's a good way of giving some feedback.
But I just don't like those reviews where someone will say, that was wonderfully touching and fantastic, or it was, I didn't like this poem, it was stupid. Like, that doesn't help anyone. Who cares, really? Poetry is very personal to me. I don't like, you know what I'm trying to get at?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I do, and that's why when when I do work with poems, or students who do poems, I tend to be, to approach it very, very gently, because poetry is extraordinarily personal, and good poetry is fairly universal. I mean, you can tell what's good and what is kind of schlocky or cliche ridden, but you have to approach that and say, well, that's really, I'm sure you feel very strongly about that, kind of like how I'm approached when I do any kind of art. You must feel strongly about that color. Yeah. You must feel very strongly about this. Is there a different way of putting it? Did you find a different twist? I mean, that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to help people get better and express themselves, so they really are expressing their soul and not just something maybe that they've read or that they're just regurgitating.
Well, there we go. Hopefully we've answered that question. Now,
I hope so. Thank you for the question. I appreciate that.
Just quickly, I searched Bella Andre on audible.com because we're sponsored by them. If you go to audibletrial.com/newbie writers, helps us out. You get a free audiobook, and I don't like doing this when it comes to romance, but I'm going to play a sample of Bella Andre's audio on here. And trust me, the nausea.
Serena Britton had dreamed of this forever. Not bright lights and designer dresses and fame.
Yeah, you lost me at dresses. Cool. So she's on there. If that's what you're into, check out audibletrial.com.
So we forgot to promote our word of the week. We have a sponsor for that, a segment.
Oh, we do, yes. Probably the last time, actually. The 629 Publications. Check it out, 629publications.com. The link should be in the show notes if I can remember. They help you out they've got services for authors that couldn't be bothered doing it. So like editing and cover design, that sort of thing. Check it out. Now, I found something. I want to throw something in. You don't know about this, but it did make me giggle. And I saw it on Google Plus the other day. And I'm surprised none of your things are in here, but it's 21 actual analogies used by high school students in English essays.
Oh, I love those lists. Okay, what did you find?
Oh, well, there's 21 of them. I'm not going to read them all out, but some of them are hilarious.
But we can save them and use them in some of the other shows, yeah.
Yes. Number one, when she tried to sing, it sounded like a walrus giving birth to farm equipment. There's a lot of female references in here, so I don't know where all these came from. She was like a magnet, attractive from the back, repulsive from the front. Anyway, which one was the one? Yeah, this one made me giggle. The sun was below the watery horizon, like a diabetic grandma easing into a warm salt bath.
That's great.
Some of these are just so stupid. And here's one. If anyone is currently having food or drink, this could be related to the romance thing. Get this into a romance book, please.
Okay.
Their love burned with the fiery intensity of a urinary tract infection.
some of those analogies and metaphors are so twisted that I don't know if they were necessarily created by high school students. I think they were created by English grad students because we just had it. I've had a couple of them where her face looked like it had been squished between a thigh master.
Yes. Yes. That one's in here. The
shots rang out as shots are wont to do. It just. But those are the best. I love twisted, bizarre turns of phrases, and the only time that they're really dangerous is when you take them seriously.
No, so here's good, because there's one here. He felt confused as a homeless man on house arrest. Now, can you put these into a serious fiction piece?
No, of course not, unless you're trying to be really bizarre. And if you like that kind of stuff, then you need to have a character that's how they talk all the time, and then you've got something that's very fun. But you don't want to just put them in the narrative because that's going to break up the narrative voice.
Cool, I better take them out then. And
yeah. Go back and look for those.
I did some writing yesterday, actually. I had to send my van in to have tinting put on it, and I asked the guy. I said, "How long will this take?" He says, "About 2.5 hours." It's like, shit, really? To put some film on 3 windows, right? There was a McDonald's across the road, and it was early in the morning, so I thought I'll get myself some breakfast. Oh shit, don't have Macca's breakfast, and yeah, I had my laptop with me. And what else do you do? I had a few business phone calls, but at the end of the day, I had to sit for 2.5 hours. Couldn't go anywhere. No point in going home. No shops were open. It was like 8 o'clock in the morning. So what do? You type. That was hard. To know that you've got this time with a blank page.
Mm-hmm.
And because I've really been struggling lately, it's been sort of crazy writer's block, can't push through it. And so I did about 800 words in about an hour and a half.
Great. 800 words is good.
Yeah. So at least it was a scene. And you get strange looks from people. So because a lot of people we have on here talk about they go to a cafe once a week or that's their thing. Yeah, I don't know. I like to people watch a little bit, and I found people watching me.
That's because they are so impressed that you're writing because they can't do it themselves.
Yeah, well, maybe. But then I was also trying to take some business calls too when they came through. So yeah, that sort of broke the flow a little bit.
It does.
I don't know. It was just strange, but I did find, and it's really uncomfortable. No one ever talks about this sort of stuff. You can never get your laptop right. So I found that the sun was in the wrong spot, and so I was moving around this McDonald's. That's probably why they're looking at me as well, going, "Why is he? He was over there a minute ago. Why is he over there?"
Right. Is he homeless? Why is he sitting in this McDonald's for so long?
He's a very sophisticated homeless man with a laptop and a brand new mobile phone. Yeah.
Yeah, Starbucks is a little bit easier for that because people do hang out in Starbucks with their laptops. It's part of the group thing.
Yeah, and the McDonald's Wi-Fi is crap. See, this is the other thing as well, and I do support the going somewhere to do this sort of thing. If you really need to force yourself, go to somewhere like McDonald's because it's got the worst Wi-Fi ever.
Yeah.
It couldn't even connect on the laptop. And
so you were forced to write.
So I couldn't do anything. I had my phone with me, but I didn't want to use the internet on that because, like I said, I had business calls, that sort of thing. Yeah. So I found myself sitting there going, cool, well, no one's phoning me, so guess I'll type.
There you go.
So it's a
good for you.
Yes.
Good for you. So we have, I had a couple of shout-outs. One is for Beth Barani, who has been on our show a couple of times. She's doing a 30-day writing challenge class to prepare you for National Novel Writing Month in November, and the class is starting in October. And you have the link for that on our website, so you can go to our website and link over and see what her class is all about.
Yep. Actually, I've got to put that banner up. I was going to put it in the show notes too.
Yeah. That's okay. That's we tag team. Together we make half a brain.
That's right.
And also shout out to Frances Caballo, who is the author of Avoid the Social Media Time Suck, and I am very grateful for her for putting me on the right track with Twitter, and then to follow up with Tube10 so that we can get even more information on the slippery slope that is social media.
Ah, there you go. And I want to give a shout out to Paul Gundry, PG, my man. He nominated me for the Ice Bucket Challenge.
Oh, isn't that nice? Did you do it yet?
No, I'm doing
I
it
would have
tomorrow.
known.
But yeah, he's a scary man. He did it in his underwear. So
That's scary.
yeah. So thanks, PG. Your pectorials are on the internet now. Anyway, yeah, so donate to that cause. I was talking to my coworker about it yesterday, and I found out, I didn't know this, but yeah, one of his relatives passed away from MMD.
Wow.
So it does have meaning to him. I said, well, there you go, I'll do it for you then, not just because someone said I needed to dump a bucket of crap on my head.
Well, you don't have to dump a bucket of ice water. You can do what I did and donate. So that's how I managed it.
Yeah, but little part of me wants to do it. I'm curious.
Okay,
also.
let me know. Post it so that we can all see it.
Yeah, because you see some people go, oh, it's so cold. And I just think, it's water.
It's water.
Takes 2 seconds to do it, 3 minutes to dry off, move on.
There you go.
All right. And that'll do it for this. So who have we got on next week?
We have Dan O'Brien, who is an author and writer, and we're going to talk more about writing for some reason because this is the Newbie Writers Podcast.
Yes. Cool. All right. Till next week. We'll see you then.
Till next week.
Your book starts here on the Newbie Writers Podcast.